Fabio, do solemnly swear that the evidence I shall give before this honorable committee shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. The judge, since this proceeding started, I have seen where 30 to 40 minutes, sometimes 1 hour, 30 minutes, have been given to some people to pour invectives on my person as a minister. I have children. There's no way I can come before you and I'm teleguided to speak for 10 or 15 minutes. With all the allegations going around, the world is watching us. There will be no fairness at all. Now, you have been given the opportunity to sit as chairman. The former chairman has stepped aside. He should have stepped aside right from the beginning because it's part and parcel of the problem of the NDDC. So what I'm saying is, from a position, I'm going, my dear, let me just make my point. These proceedings ought to start de novo. Because when I came, you gave us a summary of what has transpired in the past. So long as the chairman has now recused himself, you should have started the proceedings de novo.
Exactly.
You should have been de novo.
That's the truth of the matter.
Whatever we do here in the parliament, it is subject to judicial review.
Yeah, it is true.
It's subject to judicial
review. And that is the position.
The chairman stepped aside.
Yes, we have to start de novo.
There will be no fairness.
There will be no fairness.
The two chairmen, in the Senate and the House of Representatives, are part and parcel of the problem of the NDDC.
Point of order.
I'm not like that though.
Thank you, Chairman.
We're almost 100 and something files were given to the executive director by the MD when the report of arson reached the police, and the Commissioner of Police in Rivers State had to personally visit the office. The people who are afraid of the forensic were going to burn.
Okay, so you are in custody of the files. Okay, next question.
The files were taken to safe custody, and the files have been handed over.
Okay, with your permission, without the knowledge of the MD.
No,
next question.
Not without the knowledge of the MD.
What was your role in the approval of 5.8 billion for relief and palliative to flooded communities under the EHSS Directorate, despite the fact that there was no budget appropriation for such expenditure?
I'm not even aware that such contract has been given. I explained something to the honourable member. Please listen. What happens is that each contractor has over 50 companies. So when they are giving these contracts, they go under. Okay, since you want to hear, since you want to know, let me give you a document. I'm not supposed to, but let me give you. Now, this document I'm giving to you to look at. You may return it to me. It's evidence of what has been going on in the Niger Delta Development Commission, which is why you are sitting. This is a document in one day, where the NDDC, in a management meeting, purportedly gave money within the threshold of the MD, 49 million, and they withdrew cash of 4.2 billion in a day. It is here, and the account numbers are here.
Did you tender this document? Yeah. Did you tender this document in evidence?
You know, you are doing this.
Honourable Minister, did you tender it?
Sorry, sir. You are doing this at the period when there is forensic going on. These documents are before the forensic auditors. Even what you are bringing out now will also help us in the forensic.
Okay, we take it that you did not tender it, and since you're under, we wish that at the right time you tender it. Let me ask you next question. Honourable Minister, let me ask you next question.
Right, Honourable. From your question, you don't want to know the truth about NDDC.
How? That's why we're asking you the question.
No, you are asking me a question.
No, but you are running around. You're not going straight to the question.
I'm not running around. I'm giving you facts.
Honourable Minister.
Chairman. Please go down. To take a look at what happens in NDDC. How would the minister know? If you give a contract of 5 billion and you split it into 100 million, it doesn't come to the minister.
Okay, let's ask you other questions. If that one is difficult to answer, let's go to the next question. Honourable Minister, your ministry applied for the approval of certificate of no objection via your letter dated 30th of December 2019 for the lead forensic auditor. Please, can you tell this committee the constitutional or the statutory provision that allows supervising minister of an agency to seek procurement approval on behalf of the procuring entity that is also paying for the procurement? If not, that this is an action in that is usurping the function of the agency. Can you explain, please?
Did you do that? Well, let me tell you. Number
You are
one,
going to FEC. The agency cannot go to FEC. You are the only one who can.
Please, can you stop the stop?
no agency
Yes.
can go to Federal Executive Council without the supervising ministry. So what happened in this case is that it is the NDDC that eventually became the procuring agency, because initially we thought the federal government was going to pay for the forensic. But when the approval of Mr. President came out, it turned out that the NDDC should pay. And so that data was withdrawn. We had even gone to the Federal Tenders Journal and advertised for bids. But unfortunately, when the approval of the president came, the president directed that NDDC should pay for it. So automatically, NDDC became the procuring agency. That data is no longer operational.
So you are saying in essence that the ministry did that function that's supposed to be done by the commission. Next question.
If the ministry was paying,
are you aware that BPP came here and declared the approval you obtained as a nullity when they appeared before us because they were misled in giving that approval based on the fiscal year 2020 budget? Are you aware that they came here and they said that approval that was given is a nullity because they were deceived? Are you aware of that?
I will tell you that if they said so, then they are wrong. Because I told you that there are two sources of revenue for NDDC. By the time we are talking, on the 17th of December, the president had already approved the statutory allocation that will go to NDDC. NDDC has what I may call recurrent expenditure, salaries and other emoluments of a total of about 23 billion in a year. But the federal government makes provision for 80 billion. In 2018, I think it was 88 billion. 2019 was 80 billion. Then as at 1st December, it was around 80 billion. So there is no time we can go to Federal Executive Council without a budget. And in any case, the law allows you to start your procurement process, but you don't conclude it. You don't finalize it with any award until you have the money in the funds to pay for it. That is why even that award was not finalized until March after the NDDC budget came out.
Thank you, Minister. Let me ask you again. The purpose of the IMC, the purpose of it.
No, the purpose of the IMC
has the forensic audit started.
The forensic audit has started a long time ago. By the way, the purpose of the IMC was not. This was the fundamental disagreement with the former acting managing director. The purpose of the IMC was to ensure impartiality, because at that time we had a director in the agency who had been there for 28 years, right from the days of one parting. You cannot tell a director to sit in judgment over his own case, just like your chairman had to recuse himself.
So FEC has approved the appointment? The procurement, has FEC approved the appointment?
The Federal Executive Council has approved the appointment of the lead forensic auditors, and the Bureau of Public Procurement today has approved has given a no objection to deny that will go to state.
When was this approval from FEC?
I will need the cooperation of the National Assembly for us to stop this contract splitting and to reposition the agency. One of the things I've done is that there was a contract of 5.5 billion given to a company called Signora, which did not pass through my office. I had to intervene, and that contract was cancelled. And then they wrote a letter to me, and what came to me included palliative, total of 6.25 billion. I now wrote to Mr. President, and Mr. President approved it, and it was announced nationally. Because the people of Niger Delta deserve transparency. So when you go and split a contract into 150 companies, and then it comes to 10 billion, 20 billion, the people will not know that such contracts are given. So I've done something about it. That's why I said out of the 3 contracts I've given, one of them is the one approved by Mr. President, which I said we can no longer allow contract splitting. The papers I have here show that sometimes they take out 25 billion. Under 49 million, 49 million, 49 million, 49 million, 49 million, and the total of 249. There is no contract in NDDC. Even if you hear 10 billion, that goes to the minister. So they can spend 400 billion. We need the cooperation of the parliament. And this is where it is very important that the parliament comes in, because if you go to court, the court may say it is not illegal, the laws are not illegal, but it's Chairman Ojo, are you going to ask me a question?
Honorable Minister, sir.
19 budget had almost 11 billion for COVID, and what was taken to Mr. President for approval was only 6.7 billion. It will also surprise you to know that the idea of the contract for the procurement of vehicles went through the Bureau of Public Procurement, which must have done due diligence.
And it was in the budget.
On the budget, together with the budget, before we presented it to Federal Executive Council, they have their templates. So when something has passed through the Bureau of Public Procurement, it is my job to present it to the Federal Executive Council, because they have their own criteria. They are very
the point is made, Honorable Minister. The point is made.
Okay.
Awards, 3 contracts. Is that correct? That you have only supervised 3 contract awards.
Say that you have
I think it's not
only
hearing me.
supervised 3 contract awards.
Honorable Minister, you said you have only supervised 3 awards.
I'm saying that I have only taken part in three contracts award only.
Okay.
Not even a kilometer of road outside those 3.
Don't worry,
and
that's
they
what I
went
want
through
to. And these projects.
And then, by the way, the last question that my brother
Excuse me.
Hold on.
the vehicles are in the budget of 2000.
Honorable Minister, I have the floor.
Please.
And these projects are procurement of lead consultant of the forensic audits, emergency procurement of COVID-19, and vehicle procurement. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are they carried out with 2019 budget or 2020 budget?
As at the time that
Are they carried out with 2019 or 2020 budget?
well, first of all, the 2020 budget, sorry, the 2019 budget
Honorable
was
Minister,
in operation.
Honorable Minister, sir.
Was,
With due respect, answer the question direct.
sorry,
Direct. It's a direct question.
Mr. Chairman, the conditions where we are in now does not require bullying, with due respect. Because what I'm
No,
saying
we
is,
are not bullying you, Honorable Minister. Answer the question direct.
Okay, you are respecting me.
Honorable
Then
Minister,
thank you for the respect.
you know you are my leader,
If I don't
an
hear-
uncommon leader. So
If I
I
don't
won't
hear,
ask you
help me
something
to
that
hear.
is not good.
You can repeat after him.
Okay,
So what you are saying is that I was involved in 3 contracts, right?
yes, that's
And
what I
that
said.
so far the 3 contracts, 2 of them went through the Federal Executive Council. The Bureau of Public Procurement approved 2 of them. One is the vehicle.
Were
and
they
from what
carried
that the
out
EDP
based
said,
on the 2019 or
was-
2020 budget?
As at the time these things were done, they were all in the 2019 budget.
Can you
But
give us
the letter that you conveyed from the National Assembly was 2020 budget. So
Can
this
you
is
give
part of
us the
confusion
budget
could have
line
started
in
from
your
you.
2019 budget?
Hello?
You have the budget with you. Can you give us the budget
Where
line
is the
expressly stating these
here now.
projects or programs?
Sorry, I don't run the NDDC. The executive director is here. He can give you the
So in
budget
essence,
line.
you don't know,
Because
but you supervise it.
they concluded the arrangement with the
Now,
PDP
my question
before they
is
go to
this.
my office.
My question is this.
You know the budget
Beautiful
line.
as you
the
have presented it,
DRS?
Please,
As a-
Ask you listen and you heard the
you
question,
have 2
you can
questions,
answer.
and I'm going to give you the 2. Since you are a former lawmaker, a lawyer, a former governor, who is very passionate about the Niger Delta region, knowing fully well that the BPP Act provides for every project, every procurement must be appropriation backed. Is it good to confirm that you misled the BPP and the Federal Executive Council to approve or give you the certificate of no objection? That is 1. Then 2, with your common knowledge of the region, a former governor who has a certificate of uncommon performance, today, with your love for the region, what will you tell us now? The status of the audit, the forensic audit, bearing in mind as a lawyer that you cannot put something on nothing, because the procurement ab initio is faulty and fraudulent.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. I mentioned to you that there are 2 sources of revenue to the NDDC. One is from federal allocation, and the other one is from the internally generated revenue from the oil company. There is no way you can go and start procurement process or even obtain procurement. The award of the procurement letter for the forensic audit was given at the time you had appropriated 1.25 billion. So how can that be fraudulent? You have passed the budget in both houses on the 4th and the 5th, and the letter is dated 12th of March. How can that be fraudulent? You start procurement processes, but until you have money, you cannot give an award letter. Are you telling me that the Bureau of Public Procurement will commit fraud? Are you saying that they will not go through due diligence before they give a certificate of no objection? Please, may I plead that he withdraws the word fraudulent? No, because we must respect each other.
No. Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chairman, may I plead that the member withdraws that word fraudulent?
No,
you cannot say that the award that passed through Bureau of Public Procurement, passed through Federal Council was fraudulent.
Honorable Minister, we progress because before you
of the Commission and implementation of the projects of the Commission. 2. Have access to the books of accounts and other records of the Commission at all times, and submit periodical reports to the Presidency Commander-in-Chief. Minister, my worry is that you are also supervising the auditors, forensic or otherwise. That is 3 in 1. Does it not amount to conflict of interest that you, your PAMSEC, Director of Projects, and the likes of are now the presidential monitoring team monitoring the activities of NDDC? On the other side, you also give policy directions and guidelines to NDDC. Does it not amount to being the goalkeeper, being the striker, being the referee? Thank you.
Monitoring. Lack of proper supervision. You just saw a lacuna where a contract of over 4 billion could be given out and the minister has no single idea. The only nexus in the law that can bring the minister to know what is going on and even request book of accounts is through the PMC, the Presidential Monitoring Committee. If the minister cannot ask the NDDC to bring its expenses for scrutiny, then it means that the minister can stay for 4 years and they will spend over 1 trillion and the minister will not know. This is the reason why it is important that the minister should really be appointed as the chairman of the Presidential Monitoring Committee so that he can have access to the daily expenses of the NDDC or weekly expenses or monthly expenses. Otherwise, you will not even be properly briefed. Because it's my responsibility to brief you as the committee of the NDDC from time to time. I gave you a very small example that almost 1.1 trillion contracts were given out by the administration of Braibanfa and over 280 billion were paid out. But the minister did not know because these things are done below the threshold of the minister and under the radar of 250 million. If we must change Niger Delta, we must leave semantics. We must look at the real issues and see how we can tinker with the policies and all that. And that is why this forensic audit is the answer. Because the forensic audit at the end...
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Of the IMC. The Nigerian Constitution gives the powers to the President that he, who can appoint in substantive position, can also appoint in interim position. 2. Section 7, subsection 3 of the NDDC Act gives the President the power of control, the power of supervision, and the power of guidance over the Niger Delta Development Commission. 3. The Niger Delta Development Commission did not start today to have interim management. In fact, they have had sole administrators, up to 2 or 3 in the past. This IMC did not start now. It started even in the days of Timi Alaibi, as far back as 2002, 2003, when even when Akwari Wodo left, what they had was interim management. They've had so many. If the President has the power to appoint somebody in substantive position according to the Constitution. He also has the power to do so in acting capacity. And then, of course, they are acting. And again, he has the power of total control of the NDDC to give power of supervision and guidance. Look at your section 3, section 7, subsection 3 very well. So, and then also look at the Constitution. I can't quote right now because I don't want to make mistakes since I'm under oath. But I think if you look at maybe section 148 and all that, you even see a place where the Constitution gives power to the President to hand over any parasata to the Vice President or to a minister. And then, of course, from there, they have the authority. And I also mentioned the administrative guidelines to you. I've attached everything. Please, when you go through my depositions, which is on oath, when you look through those things, all those questions you're asking will be answered.
It's okay. Finally, Honorable Minister, sir. Honorable Minister, I have not seen anywhere in the Act where you have a role to play. That is one. Secondly, sir, when you look at provision section 20 of Public Procurement Act, I am worried.
Sorry?
When you look at the provisions of the Public Procurement Act, section 20 and 21, I'm a bit worried that you are playing some roles which ordinarily should have been taken by the Chief Accounting Officer of the agency. Even assuming without considering that you have contracts above the threshold of NDDC that will go to the FEC, the Act clearly places responsibility on the shoulder of the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry. I'm saying this with due respect, sir, that you are now looking as if you are the image of NDDC, as if you are the Chief Executive Officer of NDDC, which is not.
As if,
sir? As if you are the way the public perceive, or I and some members of the Parliament perceive as if you are the MD of NDDC. Whereas in actual fact, Section 2 is settles who should do what. It is the CEO that the Act mandates to ensure compliance with the provisions of Public Procurement Act. And sir, from what has been presented here, there are very clear indication that this Act has been rigged severally. And the consequences are anchored under Section 58(5). Thank you.
Sorry, may I inform you, sir, that it is the forensic auditors. If you look at the letters to the Bureau of Public Procurement, the NDDC, because it was now the agency to do the payment, we had to discontinue from the ministry when Mr. President approved that the money should be paid from NDDC. So the Act clearly says that it is the agency that is paying that must do the procurement. All the letters to Bureau of Public Procurement went straight from the NDDC to the Bureau of Public Procurement. But in forwarding the letters, they sometimes pass it through the supervising minister and also copy the NDDC. So it is not the minister that does the procurement. And by the way, we have the concurrence of the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation in writing to undertake the forensic audit.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman, the Minister of only supervising the NDDC. If you supervise such payment, what are the measures you applied in order to make sure that those anomalies observed in the past were not actually seen during your own administration? Thank you very much.
The President gave me this opportunity. When I became a minister, I did not know which ministry I was going to go into. One of the things I did was to ensure that they did proper evaluation and verification. In some of those instances, you see that somebody who had a contract of 1 billion, at the end, what they paid out ended up being 400 or 300. We bought equipment for them to make sure that when they go to site, they evaluate and assess exactly what is on ground before they do any payment. So some of the contractors lost over 40% of the initial contract value. In fact, in about 10 to 14 contracts, the NDDC saved 1.6 billion when they were doing their payment. But don't forget, like I said, these payments for now cannot come towards the minister because almost all the projects of NDDC were done under the threshold of ministerial approval. So my job as a minister is to observe what went wrong, work with the forensic auditors, then come back to Parliament so that if we need to tinker with the law, we do so in order to reposition the Niger Delta region. I speak as somebody who worked in Niger Delta. If I did not dualize the road, I did up to 200 kilometers in 8 years. But I can tell you that in the 19 years of the existence of the NDDC, you cannot find even 10 kilometers of dualized road. And why I need the cooperation of the Parliament is that a place, sorry, sir, let me mention this. With a place like Warren to Sapele, 45 kilometers only. During the rainy season, nobody can pass. A place like Elebele in
Honorable Minister.
Under 2 billion, the bridge collapsed. Some communities cannot pass.
That's okay. That's okay.
Thank you.
We know you very well. We know.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, sir. Mr. Chairman, sir. Mr. Chairman, sir. By federal circulars, ministers are not allowed to approve payments for parastatals. So I've directed my permanent secretary to make copies of those circulars available to you. So it is not really my business to approve payments for parastatals. But where they need to come to me when it is up to 1 billion, even at that, I must go to Federal Executive Council to go and get the proper approval. And so most of the payments that they are doing cannot come to the minister. That's number one. Then number two, I think the last question was on. Sorry.
Okay, Minister. That's okay. That's okay.
No. Somebody asked me a question on the former managing director. The former managing director of the NDDC was relieved of appointment when I received a letter from the then chief of staff, may so rest in perfect peace, that she did not possess the requisite qualifications to be there. For instance, we have written twice to the National Youth Service Corps, and twice they have insisted that she never served. So she doesn't have NYC certificate, neither does she have exemption. But I think the problem here is that we did not want to scandalize anybody.
Mr.
So what we
Minister.
did, I'm coming, my dear, let me answer the question. What we did was to expand the interim management and then replace the then managing director when we saw these flaws. But I pointed out on television that she was relieved of her appointment not because of anything, but because of insubordination. My permanent secretary wrote 7 letters to her, even to attend Federal Executive Council meeting on the 5th of February, to come and give a scorecard. We have what we call ministerial mandate, to give scorecard of the ministry and parastatals. And she refused to attend. She felt she was bigger than the minister, and her budget was higher than the ministry. So for insubordination, that was the reason why she was relieved of her post. But however, there were a lot of undercurrents. For instance, we didn't want to scandalize her, since she did not have she even swore to a fake affidavit that she swore to an affidavit that she had an NYC when she did not have, and so many things. So may I can present them.
Honorable Minister, please.
I just mentioned to you, this letter is a response to NDDC application to the Bureau of Public Procurement. But of course, they have to forward it through the supervising minister. I mentioned that to you. The letter is a response to that of the NDDC, the procuring agency, because they are the ones to pay.
Honorable Minister, as a lawyer, the issue is raised. He speaks for himself. Thank you.
Ms. Have you seen the Annex 9 of it now? Have you seen it? Have you seen the document? Okay. So, can I take you on that now? Okay. From the Bureau of Public Procurement, due process certificate of no objection for the award of contract for the various consultancy services for the forensic audit of the activities of the Niger Delta Development Commission between 2001 August 2019 in favor of 9 forensic audit firms, and it was dated June 29, 2020. And the project cost as requested is 1,455,049,2 23500 only. I don't know, you said you've not been having any interference between the board and your ministry. That was what you told us here, but this is just dated 29th of June 2020, and it was written, or the certificate of no objection was sent to your office, and you must have followed it up with what my friend asked, my honorable colleague. You wrote to them, giving directives for the approval of this no objection certificate.
Well, it is a very, the 2019 budget, for instance, the federal government had appropriated about 80 billion or so to the NDDC. If you look at the 2020 budget that became operational, the federal government also, on 17 December, appropriated another statutory transfer to the NDDC. If you have that budget, as at January. But because of the volatility of the oil price, that has continued to go through revision. I think what is there now is about 46 billion. So on a monthly basis, the federal government does give money to the NDDC, but it stopped only in this June. Now, the processes have been on. We have not yet, before we can do an award letter, we must depend on your budget of 2020. So there is no award letter yet. And moreover, there was even a mistake from your side. When the clerk of the National Assembly forwarded a letter purportedly sending the approval of the National Assembly for a budget of 2020. So that letter, I understand, was only corrected last week. That letter was only corrected last week, and it has not been that letter has not been corrected in the sense that we still have that letter.
Yeah, okay. Honorable Minister, that's okay. That's okay, Honorable Minister.
I know you don't want to have any fault.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You don't want to have any fault.
It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
First, you are asking the qualification for the office of the Executive Director. I agree with you. But that person should be somebody who is versed in project execution. The greatest project today in the world is medical, and that is COVID-19. Even
which is true.
I'm coming now.
Which is true.
And the budget of the NDDC.
Which is true.
My sister, please don't be angry.
Honorable Minister,
No, don't be angry. Let me finish.
was there COVID when you appointed
Chairman,
him?
I want to be protected.
No, you're protected.
I want to be protected.
Was there COVID when he was
Sorry, I want to
appointed
be
in the first
protected.
interim?
Chairman, I want to be protected. Chairman, am I protected? Am I protected?
Honorable Minister, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for protecting me, because my sister was to Ibiro. Let me say that if you look at the year-in, year-out of budget of the NDDC, 60% of the budget of NDDC every year is medical. And you also have to know that malaria has killed more children in Nigeria than even accidents and than any other thing. Even before the coming of the COVID, 60% of the budget of the NDDC is medical. So who will best fit the position of executive director
Than the medical doctor.
in NDDC than a medical doctor to go and implement the 60% of the budget? I'm not the one that does the budget. You do the budget. Do your analysis and you find out that the most fitting person that is qualified to be there is a medical doctor because of your budget. And then lastly, sir, the last question he asked was about the expenditure during this period. We cannot close down Niger Delta because of the security implications of the region. Sorry, sir. We cannot close down Niger Delta Development Commission because of the fact that we are doing forensic audit. The NDDC plays a vital role in ensuring the peace and security of the region. And 90% or more of the resources of the country on a monthly basis comes from there. If you close it down in totality, all you have will be chaos. And you have a lot of, not just militancy, but you have a lot of insurrection. So it is important that people who have gone to court, people who genuinely did jobs, should be paid for their jobs. So for me, I'm not against it because, of course, who are even the greatest beneficiaries? It's you people now. Okay. Because if you look at your chairman gave...
Okay, Honorable Minister.
Honorable
Minister, that's okay.
Before the commencement of the
Can I
payment.
ask you that question? What is the benefit that the National Assembly is benefiting from?
It's okay, it's okay.
Are you asking me the benefit of National Assembly?
Yes, you just said...
I just told you that we have record to show that most of the contracts in NDDC are given out to members of National Assembly, but you don't know about it.
It's okay. It's okay.
You
The two chairmen...
Honorable Minister, please. It's okay. That is okay. That is okay.
But let me explain.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Let me explain
It's
now.
okay. It's okay.
You must not allow the two
It's
chairmen to hijack the budget
okay.
every
It's
year.
okay. Off your mind. It's okay.
She's
Off your
right.
mind.
You are
Honorable Minister.
like me. I was a member like you. I did not know what was going on.
Honorable Minister.
Yes,
It's
Mr. Chairman,
okay.
sir. Yes, Chairman.
You guys sit down. Sit down. Sit down. It's okay. Focus. Just, I have this.
I can explain to you. That is why I was a member. I was a member of the NDDC committee.
It's
I did not know what was
okay. It's
going on.
okay.
Let him talk now.
Wait, you were a member of the NDDC and lot of, you were a member of the NDDC in the 8th Assembly,
Yes.
and are you telling me that lots of jobs were awarded to you as a
No,
member?
this is the problem. That's why I said you
Then
must
you have
change.
the right to accuse people. Then
You
why can't
must.
you bring up
Can you please
people
listen
that
to me? One of the chairmen
if
also.
you were not awarded a contract, then why are you coming here that you are aware that you were a member of the NDDC and lots of contracts were awarded to
May
you?
I-
You said I'm not aware. I'm telling you that. Bring up those names.
May I inform my honorable sister that that is
For
what.
your submission. But I just want to tell you one thing. You came here to mislead the parliament on your under oath. That's what you have done deliberately. I have my argument, and it should be in line with Section 20 of Public Procurement Act. This is your report. This is what you have presented to the committee. And look at the annex to 9, 11, 6, 10, and 8. All these correspondences are between you, Bureau, BPP, and the Ministry of Nigeria-Delta. And you have just said, Honorable Minister.
I don't know why this wouldn't understand.
Honorable Minister, please. Honorable Minister, I will still repeat myself. I said you decided to just come here and mislead the parliament on an oath. I'm relying my argument under Section 20, Section 2 of Public Procurement Act. And I want to put it to you that your submission, the way you, all the annexures, 8, 9, 10, 11, are misleading. And before then you said you have no any link of any contract between yourself and the NDDC. Your just job is just to supervise. But correspondences shows that they are giving you approval, conveyance approval of forensic auditors, contract, whatever, between you and the PPP. Chairman, I want to read, with your permission, I want to read Section 20, subsection 2 of the Public Procurement Act, which says, accounting officer of every procuring entity shall have overall responsibility for the planning, organization of tenders, evaluation of tenders, and execution of all procurement in a particular responsibility. But, Mr. Minister, you have taken over the duty as the MD, acting MD of the NDDC because of your documents. You are the producer and author of this. But all these here are indicating that. Secondly, you are on air. You said they gave contract to the chairman of the committee in April 2019. And the chairman was appointed June. Yeah, November. He was appointed in November. But he went ahead and said, you people, the NDDC gave contract to the chairman of this committee in April, which he was not a chairman of the committee. He was not even member of the committee, talking of being a chairman. Not even member of this house.
Mr. Chairman.
Not even member of this house. That's two questions I want you to respond to. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Sorry, Mr. Right Honorable, of a contract of 10.9 billion in the chairman's place.
No, Minister.
In the chairman's
let me give you your words off your mic.
Contracts are split to a point where it comes below the threshold. of the minister's approval. That, for instance, in a contract given to the chairman's place for road construction, that it came under 950, but the total is 10.9 billion.
That's not my question.
So your question is whether
Honourable Minister,
the contract is not for the chairman.
Honourable Minister,
The contract is not for the chairman.
Honourable Minister,
The contract is not for the
Honourable Minister,
chairman, but the contract is for the chairman's state.
Honourable Minister,
And,
please.
and I don't know what
Honourable
the
Minister,
local government, you know, right?
Honourable, please, Minister, off your phone, off your this thing. You.
So
Why did you say that?
I'm saying that a contract.
Why did you say that?
I said that's why I said maybe you misunderstood me. And
No,
I mean,
no.
If I was misunderstanding public procurement, so we have not in any way infringed upon the law. I want to make a final statement, sir, that one of the things you and I must change in NDDC is, number one, we must not allow this line item alone to come before the parliament. When you approve 50 billion for health and 80 billion for education, and then you say total 600 billion, then you drop the gavel, the two chairmen of the House and the Senate will carry it to Hilton, and only the clerk of the committees will be there. At this stage, no Niger Delta, the plight of Niger Delta people are left to two chairmen. And then they will now organize the budget to a point where nothing has been achieved in 19 years. Now, I'll give you an example, sir. Recently, no, you need to hear me. Recently, I'm not even talking about the accusation made against me.
Extra 10 minutes outside your time.
Thank you, sir. I want to help you so that we can move the region forward.
Just conclude, sir.
Just one more thing.
Yeah.
There are two things I want you to change. Number one, the budgeting process that comes before you should come with the details. If it does come with the details, it means that what the input of Niger Deltans will be in the details. You cannot leave the entire region to only two people. We put in 1.3 billion to pay to International Food and Drugs and Agricultural Organization.
It's okay.
To get
It's okay.
$132 million. But that was removed and only 100 million was put in 2019. So the region lost $126 million.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
The second thing, sir, is this organization of the expenses of NDDC.
Point of order. Point of order. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
I thought we should also provide solution.
I have the floor, Honourable Minister.
Okay, I'll wait for your questions.
I have the floor. The reason why I raise this point of order is on
implementation. We have concluded with the Bureau of Public Procurement. The forensic auditors, the lead consultants have started work, and then the forensic is ongoing. We have now concluded with the Bureau of Public Procurement for the state forensic auditors, because we divided them into 10 lots. So we have the headquarters, which will be handled by an international firm, NS Young or NS and Young. I don't know how to pronounce it. NS Young, but they are about they are among the 5 in the world. KPMG and others could not come because they were already advisors to NDDC. Pricewaterhouse did not submit their financial tenders. So NS and Young has been approved by the BBP, in addition to about 8 other companies right now. And so we presented it to the Federal Executive Council, and it will be represented to the Federal Executive Council because it was with only the international organization, international auditing firm that was left. We have gone through all due processes. So I have all the documentations here to give you back and forth to show that we went through all. So, Mr. Chairman, let me quickly say that I've attached all the annexures for you to look at. In line with the mandate, the lead forensic auditors have concluded their work, and we are on course right now. I believe that the Federal Executive Council will soon give approval for the states to start. What was the cause of the delay? No budget, and also this COVID-19 with the state lockdown. Otherwise, I'm sure we would have been on the road in the states right now, but the headquarters had already started. The forensic audit of the headquarters has started. As soon as that started, hell was let loose, as you as expected. Nobody should expect that after 19 years of rot, that anybody will be happy to be audited. because trillions are involved. So, Mr. Chairman, as you requested documents were attached Bureau of Public Procurement documents of certificate of no objection for lead consultant and response of PBP in that regard. Criteria used for the appointment of members of the Interim Management Committee. It is an exercise of the powers conferred on the President. Then, of course, the Minister's statutory powers and duties Miscellaneous Provisions Act, which I believe is embedded in your bosom as lawmakers, is also attached. Which is subject to the provisions of this section, the President may, in any law enacted by the National Assembly or having effect as if it had been so enacted, by order make such modifications, whether by means of addition, subtraction, or division as it may seem fit, for the purpose of 1. Transferring to a minister any of the powers and duties which are by such law directly or indirectly conferred or imposed on the President or any public officer, or which are conferred upon any other minister, making provisions consequential or incidental thereto, and other made under this section may include directions either of general nature or otherwise. Since the law is already before you have quoted the law, I'm sure I'll leave it, you go through that section. A law which has been modified and in accordance with an order made under this section shall be deemed for all purposes to have been amended in accordance with such modifications. Let me say, we also have attached for you the administrative guidelines regulating the relationship between parastatals, government-owned companies, and the government itself. So, to come to the NDDC, sir, first, the job of the minister is to supervise the activities of the NDDC, not to run the NDDC. Now, I also found out that by practice, it is only when expenditure is up to 1 billion naira, that is when it is referred to the minister. And by our own federal regulation, by the Bureau of Public Procurement Act, the minister is enjoined to approach the president and approach the Federal Executive Council. So since I came on board, only 3 contracts have been awarded. The first contract is the appointment of the lead forensic auditor. The second contract is the fact that they don't have vehicles. I think we have to change the modus operandi of the NDDC. We must make sure that they have vehicles and not to rent and spend billions. So the President in Council approved in 2 batches the purchase of about 90 vehicles for the NDDC. Even in this difficult time, he has to bend backwards, and I thank the President for that. Now, that is the second contract. That went through the Bureau of Public Procurement and had a no objection, and of course, it went through the Federal Executive Council. The third contract is this COVID contract. The COVID contract was treated as an emergency, and we're relying on your law, Section 42, subsection A and B, and thereafter we'll make returns to the Bureau of Public Procurement under Section 43, subsection 4 of the law. So those are the only 3 contracts. Outside that, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I have never approved a single contract, not even 1 kilometer, for the NDDC since I became a minister. Because, 1, there was no budget, and when the budget came, there was no time to ensure proper procurement. Now, on the expenses that they are hearing about, most of the expenses, according to them, are historical debts. But one thing is certain, if it was possible for them to pass the expenses through my office, I probably would have questioned some as they are questioning. But this is what has been happening in NDDC. Number 1 is that they do not even go beyond 250 million, which is within the management threshold. So their contracts are divided into lots. They can have up to 75 lots, and you come under 250, 250. In fact, in the chairman's, the permanent chairman of your committee, the contract that was given, which we have seen dated 4th or thereabouts, for his own area, for the roads around his place in Ore, amounting to 10.9 billion, was divided into about 13 lots of 950 each, so that it do not come to the minister. So those documents are some of the documents presented to you. No, I'm talking about what is already before you. You have them. So it did not come to the minister. So, sir, all the expenses, I'm coming, sir. These expenses are important to explain to you. So all the expenses met so far, only one that I can say that I approve, and that was the expenses on this COVID-19 emergency. And thereafter, I took it to Mr. President, and Mr. President also approved. And in line with the law, it is ongoing. When it is completed, returns must be made to the Bureau of Post
to speak on this document. Thank you. You can go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, may I know how many minutes I have so that I don't waste your time?
We will give you between 20 and 30 minutes.
No, as the chairman pleases.
To speak to the document.
Thank you so much for the privilege. Let me start because the entire world is listening to us. As we conduct these proceedings today, some students of Niger Delta are in London protesting right now against the unpaid scholarships. So I will just quickly use 5 minutes out of my 30 minutes to mention a few things that are important to Nigeria. Number one, there is an ongoing forensic audit. Number two, the minister did not hijack the forensic audit. It is ongoing and it is going in line with due process. Number three, the process of making money in NDDC comes from two sources. One from the federal government of Nigeria through statutory allocations, and the other one from internally generated revenue that comes from the oil companies through the 3% that is allowed in the law. Number four, no staff of NDDC, to my knowledge, was sacked, because part of what you are to unravel is you said, and other issues. So no staff of NDDC was sacked, to my knowledge. And even the COVID allowance that was mentioned here. So the staff that are on leave also receive the COVID allowance, and they are getting their monthly salary. Number five, files from NDDC are not missing. They have been handed over to the forensic auditors. In fact, the first set of files to be handed over were about 8,000 files in number. Number six, the Honourable Minister, outside the oath of allegiance to the Federal Republic, has never asked anybody to swear to an oath. Number seven, the last IMC management of the Commission did not spend 8 billion. The total expenditure before the Ponde Committee that they spent was about 23 billion, which is before you, because I'm sure you have the figures from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Number seven, the question of official car for any management of the NDDC does not arise because they were renting vehicles at the rate of 200,000 a day, and that is part of what we want to change. And recently, Mr. President, in Council, approved that about 90 vehicles should be purchased. And for the first time in 19 years, NDDC is now going to have its own vehicle as part of the changes. The Federal Executive Council approved it recently. Number seven, Mr. Chairman, just not to waste time, I'd like to just pass a document to you. This, please, who is in charge? Mr. Chairman, I'm copy free. I have my test result. So this is a document I would like the chairman to look at. Oh, including this. Mr. Chairman, some of the allegations here is that because we watch it on television, whether from Skype or any other place, was that a former acting MD was told to take oath. I want to assure you that the document you have there was what led to the meeting in the villa, in the house of one of the presidential aides, Sariki Abad. Suddenly, a report came out on the social media the assassins were after the former managing director, and that the assassins were being sent by Dr. Cairo Akpabio and Ward Emmanuel Oduaga, not the former governor. You can see it there. Secondly, the allegation of Dr. Cairo being a murderer and all sorts of things came out, and they came out from the former MD. So there was need for us to have a meeting to find out from her whether there was a problem or not. And in that meeting, 2 presidential aides were in attendance in the villa, and there was never any issue of oath. There was never any issue of oath taking to be loyal to the minister of allegiance or to sponsor presidential ambition or other. And as the chairman, just for the notice of the committee, I have no presidential ambition. Then, as part of my 5 minutes, before I go into my real presentation, there was no time at all, Mr. Chairman, that we had a budget when I came in. There was no budget. And as the senator of the Federal Republic and a former minority leader, I know what that means. That means that we cannot spend money unless there is a budget. So the 2019 budget of the NDDC was not available. And we were late because the law, the NDDC Act, enjoins us to submit the next year's budget every 30th of September, at least before the 30th of September. And in the past, those things were not done. So there was no way the minister could have asked any MD or any staff to go and bring 10 billion naira to share in December. That allegation is false and is from the pit of hell. Having said that, Mr. Chairman, let me thank you and members of the committee for what you are doing. The reason I'm thanking you is because this is part of what will bring change to the Niger Delta region. As a Niger Delta, you will agree with me that with the quantum of money that has gone into the region, what we have on ground is not commensurate with that amount. And so definitely there is need for us to do this kind of thing. The only thing is that while I was watching there, I was just asking myself, how come past parliament did not see the need to do what they are doing? How I wish that others were doing what they are doing now, right from 2001, would not be in this mess, where NDDC will stay for 19 years without even an office, or where they will stay for 7 to 8 years without that same office they are occupying, rented, being connected to the national grid. So, Mr. Chairman, honorable members, I sincerely thank you, and I will attempt to respond to the alleged malfeasance and other activities in the Niger Delta Development Commission, if any. The first thing that came out in the press, Mr. Chairman, was that 40 billion naira was missing. I took time to explain that 40 billion naira cannot miss from the account of the NDDC, because the account of the NDDC now, under President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, is domiciled in the Central Bank of Nigeria. But before this administration, this APC administration came to clean the system, NDDC had over 311 accounts. There are over 500 accounts. So in 300 accounts in various banks, there were possibilities of some money being missing. And so that could have happened at that time. But today, we operate the TSA account. The CBN has the account details that they are available to you with the Office of the Accountant General. So I want to state emphatically that no 40 billion is missing. Unfortunately, people have done a lot of mudslinging, character assassination, and people have done a lot of social media judgment on the person of the minister and all that. I want to state, sir, that those things are false. You will see where the money went to, the projects that were paid for one after the other, and that not one naira was paid to the minister. And the minister has never done a contract in the NDDC. So, Mr. Chairman, I want to say that as a Niger Delta, you and I must be very concerned about the future of our region. And that is why you are giving me this opportunity to speak. Now, having appreciated you, I want to recall some of the fond memories that I shared with a number of you here. I've seen a lot of you when I was in the Senate, in the 8th Senate of the Federal Republic, as the minority leader and a principal officer. And Chairman, I thought that the moment you cited me, you would have called me to speak first. Maybe by that time, one day would have had at least time to go and get some air outside. And then what happened would not have happened. But it's good that I'm speaking now. And I thank the minister for that, I thank the speaker for this opportunity. To this day, I have endeavored to discharge my responsibilities together with my colleague, the Honourable Minister of State, Senator Tayo Alashadura, and the Permanent Secretary. I have done that with a lot of zeal, the same way I did when I was the governor of Akwa Ibom State between 2007 and 2015. The propelling force driving me is to bequeath a legacy that future generations of Niger Delta will be very proud of. This philosophy, Mr. Chairman, has guided my stewardship in my ministry. And we have, by the way, we have achieved a lot in the Ministry of Niger Delta, outside just the NDDC. In spite of what has happened in recent past of social media condemnation and attack, to situate everything in proper context, the governors of the 9 states of the Niger Delta region, at a meeting with Mr. President on the 20th of October 2019, requested for, and Mr. President approved, the commencement of forensic audit of the Niger Delta Development Commission to find out why this child is a stunted child 19 years after, and why it has not achieved much for the region, and where the monies that have been appropriated year in, year out are gone. So that process, prior to this directive from Mr. President for the conduct of this forensic audit, Mr. President had done the following. He delegated to the Honourable Minister of Niger Delta the powers and duties conferred on the President in Section 7, Subsection 3 of the Niger Delta Development Commission Act. He also approved the confinement of the Niger Delta Development Commission as a parastatal in the ministry, under the Ministry of the Niger Delta. He also approved the suspension of the composition of a proposed board for the Niger Delta Development Commission in the year 2019 until the conclusion of the forensic audit. He thereafter approved the constitution of a 3-man interim management committee headed by the erstwhile acting managing director, which was now expanded to 5. Now, the estimated cost for the forensic audit estimated was put at about 2.5 billion naira. Mr. President also approved that should be reflected in the 2019 budget of the NDDC and should be settled by the NDDC. The composition of the board for the NDDC in 2019 was put on hold by Mr. President until the conclusion of this forensic audit. Now, the Honorable Committee is adequately informed that a component part of the NDC budget comes from the annual national appropriation as a single line route, and of which the 2020 Appropriation Act, signed into law by the President on Tuesday, December 17, 2019. No, this was 2020. Mr. Chairman, just a slight correction because it's on the record. 2020. When it actually went into force on 1st of January. However, in 2019, which was what we were asking about in terms of budget, the federal government had made provision for 100 billion for the NDDC as statutory transfers. Out of this 100 billion, at least to my knowledge today, the federal government has remitted the sum of 71,195,023,528 naira and 62 kobo to the NDDC for their activities. That is in terms of the 2019, out of the 100 billion that was appropriated for them. So the President approved the funding of the forensic audit exercise by the estimated total cost of 2.5 billion. And that was to be sourced from the budget of the NDDC. Now, the processes leading to the final award of contract for the lead consultant of the forensic audit was only completed in March 2020. And at that time, luckily, Mr. Chairman, the 2019 budget of the NDDC was passed by the two houses. So that is when we now proceeded to give the letter of award. And then, Mr. Chairman, I'm sure they must have corrected it for you. The clerk of the National Assembly, whilst conveying the letter to us and the NDDC through the office of the SCM, actually conveyed passage of budget of 2020. But listening to the news, I knew it was passage of budget of 2019. That document should be before you now. I don't know why somehow we almost glossed over it, because I think that was a major problem that probably led to deceit. It was conveyed as budget of 2020 instead of budget of 2019. I understand from the acting managing director that just last week Friday that he showed it to you, to your committee, and they contacted the clerk, and that was corrected just this last week Friday. I don't want to speak into speculation, but I'm talking of, I have the documents attached there. So, Mr. Chairman, on the passage of your 2019 budget for the NDDC, and statutory appropriation, which was just passed February, concluded on the 5th, on the 4th and 5th by the two houses. I believe the NDDC now had a budget of 2019, and this is done in 2020. But that budget was to end on the 31st of May. A lot of underground current went into it. I will make my recommendation to the committee before I go. So, because by the time the budget was finally released by the two chairmen, the chairman of the Senate and the chairman of the House, to the NDDC, it was less than the 6 weeks required for even advertisement and procedure for contract. So I don't think that budget has been implemented. On the passage of that budget, we realized that provision was made by you. By you, I mean both the Senate and National Assembly, in the sum of 1,250 million naira for the forensic audit, and passed by the two houses, as I said earlier, on 4th and 5th, respectively. The clerk to the National Assembly, in the letter he forwarded to us, unfortunately forwarded it as 2020 budget. So we had no reason to doubt the clerk, because that stayed from that March until last week, when we understand that the acting managing director had to try to show the letter to some of your colleagues, and they said no. So they took it from him and took it to the clerk's office, and they now changed it for him and gave 2019. I haven't seen it yet, but that's what he told me here when I was coming. But that is what they had. So I think some of the issues here, the confusion as the 2020 budget and 2019 budget arose from there. So, Mr. Chairman, the acting managing director of the commission, through a letter dated December 6, 2019, I have attached a copy, transmitted to the Bureau of Public Procurement, pre-qualification, technical and financial documents of Messrs. Jegrali Limited for the commencement of the forensic audit, for the Bureau of Public Procurement to appoint Messrs. Jegrali as the lead consultant to procure and recruit the forensic auditors. I'll summarize it. Mr. Jegrali was found not to possess the requisite qualifications as chartered accountants and chartered forensic auditors to undertake the exercise. Thereafter, by a letter dated December 30th, 2019. A copy is also attached for your reference, sir. The NDDC now immediately transmitted another letter for pre-qualification to the Bureau of Public Procurement. I mean, I'm talking about the stages. And of course, this time around, technical and financial reviews were done. And Messrs. Olumiliwa, Bashiru and Co. were now given certificate of no objection to act as forensic auditors, the lead forensic auditors for the commission. But initially they asked for 385 million, but what was approved by the BDP, because you need to be briefed. It's an opportunity for me to brief you on the forensic, was about 380 million. And I took that letter to the Federal Executive Council.
Sorry, Honorable Mayor. Honorable Minister, sir.
Yes.
Sorry. You have about 2 more minutes. So can you dwell on the more on the procurement